30 Australian geography shocks that will blow your mind, ranked so you will never look at the map the same way again. We combed through all 30 insane facts and pulled the 10 you simply cannot miss. Buckle up, because every step lands bigger than the last, and each one comes with a story that feels impossible until you see it with your own eyes. 10. Glowing beaches. Along parts of the Victorian coast, especially around Gippsland, the sand and surf can light up electric blue at night. Picture it. You walk the shoreline and your footprints pulse neon. A wave folds over and explodes into sparkle, as if the ocean swallowed a city of LEDs. The culprits are tiny plankton called Noctiluca scintillans, sea sparkle, that flash when disturbed by currents, feet, even a tossed pebble. These living light shows come in bursts, often after calm, warm spells, and turn a dark beach into a sci-fi set you can wander through for an hour. Why it matters. It is a living reminder that Australia's coastline is not just beautiful, it is biologically wild and fragile, and it shows how microscopic life can turn a beach into a science fiction scene. You don't need a lab to feel awe, you just need the right tide and a little patience. 9. An underground town in the desert. Welcome to Coober Pedy, the opal capital where many residents live beneath the surface. Summer temperatures can soar above 50 degrees Celsius, so people carve homes, dugouts, into sandstone to stay cool year-round. Down there you find entire lives. Churches with carved altars, a hotel with cave-quiet rooms, a bookstore that smells like stone and paper. Above ground, the landscape looks lunar. Mullock heaps of pale rock, the Conku Breakaways cliffs painted in reds and creams, and a no-grass golf course played at night with glowing balls. Hollywood has used it as an alien world for a reason. Why it matters. This is radical human adaptation to extreme geography. When the land is brutal, Australians do not quit. They engineer comfort inside the earth. Coober Pedy isn't just quirky, it's a blueprint for survival in heat that will only grow more common. 8. The world's longest fence. The Dingo Fence stretches more than 5,600 kilometers across South Australia, Queensland, and New South Wales, built to shield sheep flocks from wild dingoes. Imagine a line so long it crosses deserts, saltbush plains, and flood-prone rivers, with caretakers who patrol it like a frontier, mending wire in 45-degree heat and watching the weather as closely as they watch tracks in the dust. On one side, ecosystems evolved with a top predator. On the other, they didn't. That invisible difference has cascaded through kangaroo numbers, vegetation, and even erosion patterns. Proof that a fence can redraw nature as surely as it redraws maps. Why it matters. This is landscape-scale engineering. A single human idea reshaped ecosystems and livelihoods across an area larger than many countries, forcing us to ask not just does it work, but what else does it change? 7. More camels than Egypt. Australia is home to one of the largest wild camel populations on Earth, hundreds of thousands of animals. Descended from camels imported in the 19th century by cameleers from Afghanistan, British India, and beyond. They hauled supplies across deserts, mapped routes, and left behind mosques, place names, and a legend built on patient steps. When trucks replaced them, many were released and thrived. Today, wild camels roam the Red Heart, drinking from remote waterholes, nudging radio masts, and sometimes being mustered for export back to the Middle East. Why it matters? It flips your expectations. It is a perfect example of how introduced species can transform a continent, and how Australia's deserts are some of the harshest and most adaptable environments on Earth. It's also a cautionary tale. Even useful introductions can ripple for centuries. 6. A mountain range that decides where people live. The Great Dividing Range runs like a weather switch along Australia's east. About 3,500 kilometers of plateaus, ridges, and highlands, rather than a single jagged wall. Moist air off the Pacific rises, rains, and feeds rivers that rush to the coast, while the leeward side dries into the inland. Within it sit the snowy mountains, rolling granite summits that gather winter snow and spring torrents, and the escarpments that drop into rainforest gullies where lyrebirds sing like flutes. On one side lie most major cities, Sydney, Brisbane, Melbourne hugging the wet edge. On the other, towns that learn to live with dust. Every weather map is a story of these rocks. Why it matters. Geography dictates destiny. The strangest fact is still coming. But first, let's go deep underground. 5. A hidden ocean under the Outback. Beneath the red soils and gibber plains lies the Great Artesian Basin, one of the largest underground freshwater systems on the planet, spanning roughly 1.7 million square kilometers. Drill a bore in the right place, and ancient, pressurized water rises on its own, feeding steaming baths in tiny towns, bubbling mound springs near Kadithanda, Lake Eyre, and tanks that keep cattle and remote communities alive. Some of this water fell as rain tens of thousands of years ago, long before roads or fences, and has been moving slowly, silently ever since. Why it matters? Without this reservoir, much of inland Australia would be uninhabitable. It is the silent lifeline that turns Red Centre into living country, sustaining endangered species, sacred springs, and livelihoods, and reminding us that what's underground can be as critical as what we see. 4. The world's largest living structure. The Great Barrier Reef isn't just a tourist poster, it's a living city of coral stretching about 2,300 kilometers, made up of thousands of reefs and hundreds of islands. From space, astronauts can trace its sweep. Up close, a single bommy thrums with parrotfish crunching coral, reef sharks cruising the edge, and turtles rising for air like old souls. 6 of the world's 7 marine turtle species visit here, along with migrating humpbacks, manta rays, and kaleidoscopic clouds of reef fish. Why it matters? It is a global biodiversity engine and a frontline for climate and ocean health. Bleaching events and warming seas threaten it, but traditional owner sea country management and science-driven protections show what coordinated guardianship can look like. Protecting it is not just an Australian issue, it is a planetary mission. 3. Bigger than the moon. East to west, Australia spans about 4,000 kilometers. The moon's diameter is about 3,474 kilometers. This continent is wider than the moon. Think about that the next time someone says, let's just drive across. Perth to Sydney is a multi-day odyssey through time zones, biomes, and accents. A single country that's wider than our nearest celestial neighbor. It scrambles your sense of scale in the best way. Why it matters? It recalibrates your sense of distance and isolation. The next time you see a world map, remember that getting from one Australian coast to the other is literally an astronomical comparison. And that shapes everything from freight costs to culture to how emergencies are managed. 2. A continent on the move. Australia drifts north about 7 centimeters every year as part of the Indo-Australian Plate. Over millions of years, that motion has slammed seabeds into mountain ranges in New Guinea and will eventually push Australia into Southeast Asia. It's not just theory, it's practical. In 2017, Australia's official GPS coordinates were shifted by about 1.5 meters to match the continent's actual position, so your phone's blue dot lines up better with reality. Even earthquakes in places like Newcastle and Victoria are whispers of this restless crust. Why it matters? The ground under your feet is not fixed. From navigation to geology to future hazards, motion shapes the continent's story, and our technology has to keep up, or our maps lie. 1. The only place that is a continent, a country, and an island. Australia holds the geographic Triple Crown. It is the largest island, the smallest continent, and the 6th largest country all at once. That single border encloses deserts the size of nations, rainforests older than the Amazon, alpine peaks, and tens of thousands of smaller islands, from Tasmania's wild west coast to coral cays where seabirds scream at dawn. One government, one set of biosecurity gates, one national conversation that must include reef bleaching, feral species, bushfires, and booming cities. Why it matters? This uniqueness changes everything. One government stewarding an entire continent means singular responsibility for oceans, deserts, reefs, and cities, and it cements Australia as a one-of-a-kind powerhouse on the world map. It's an island mindset with continental consequences. From glowing shores to underground cities, from fences that split the Outback to a reef visible from space, these 10 are the loudest from a list of 30 that prove Australia is stranger, bigger, and bolder than you imagined. If this blew your mind, tell us which fact shocked you most, and buckle up, because the next countdown dives even deeper into the map you thought you knew. Subscribe now to never miss unbelievable facts.